I've been working here at DISC for 17 years, and within the last year and a half, we've had the most overdoses that I've ever experienced throughout my time here. One of the initiatives we have going on is we're putting Narcan stands out in the community. So they're red boxes that are out in the community for a free Narcan. And for those who don't know about Narcan, I know you guys are well aware because you guys carry them, but they're a life-saving medication that can help reverse the overdose.
Welcome to Leon County Today with Sheriff Walt McNeil. I'm Shonda Knight, and Sheriff, a really serious topic we have to talk about here today. Florida's Attorney General out with a brand new warning about fentanyl, and we've seen fentanyl on the streets throughout the state, the country, really. But this new form really seems like something out of the movies. And we're going to dig into exactly what that is and what it's being mixed with. But we've really got to tell our viewers about this.
This Shonda, is scary stuff. Now we've given warnings out about drug use and trying to make sure people are smart about it. We saw it happening in Gaston County about a year or so ago, and the number of deaths they had now. But they've kicked this thing into a whole different gear in terms of the impacts of fentanyl and this tranquilizer they've now mixed it with, and the deaths we're seeing across the country. And it's just horrific. And our people in our community aren't aware of it. And that's why this show is so important. We get the word out about fentanyl, and you know, we're a college town, and I'm always concerned about safety in our community overall, but particularly with this drug that seems to be a drug that just devastates people. And we're going to get into more detail about that, but please, if you stay with us, if you're watching today, stay with us, because we've got some really good information to share with you about fentanyl and its lethal impacts across the people in this community. I'm so thankful that Attorney General Moody has jumped on this and is making this a priority for the state of Florida.
And we're going to talk with Captain Bobby Green with our Vice Unit, and we've really got some efforts on the ground as it relates to trying to tackle some of these issues.
Yeah, we absolutely do. We've been working on the drug issues for quite a while ourselves. We've made it one of our top priorities, and again, we're trying to do it not just in Leon County, but throughout the region. One of the things we know about these drugs, fentanyl particularly, is that they come through those cartels in Mexico, and they ship them into Atlanta, and they make their way into Tallahassee, Leon County. We've got to make sure we continue to educate our community about these drugs and what we can do to keep ourselves safe. And that's what this show is about today. How do we keep our citizens safe from this tremendously lethal drug in our community?
Yeah, and then we're going to talk about, from a community perspective too, what we can do. We've got our friends from DISC Village here to tell us about some resources. For anyone out there who knows someone or is experiencing it, it's really important to get that help.
Absolutely. Our deputies carry Narcan, and so there are some discussions we need to have about how we get that out to the community in terms of what impacts and how it can save lives in our community.
All right, thank you, Sheriff. Well, be sure to stick around. We have a full show for you here today. We're going to learn more about this new warning from Attorney General Ashley Moody, talking about this deadly mix of fentanyl. Stay tuned.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Crime Prevention Specialist Brandon Ortiz with the Leon County Sheriff's Office with your Safety Tip Tuesday.
Cyber attacks are scary, and it's not just a major issue for big businesses. We are seeing a rise in cases right here in Leon County. Anyone with an email address, online bank account, or any other connection to the internet can be vulnerable to virtual villains with bad intentions. Here are some ways to help prevent you or someone you know from being a target. Start by taking a look at all your passwords. While using easy to recall names, dates, and numbers may be convenient, it opens you up to cyber thieves who can crack the code. With the onslaught of social media pervading our lives, avoid personalizing passwords. Consider a password management tool to keep track of multiple unique passwords and let it do the work for you. Research which one may be right for you. Remember, repetition can be good for some things in life, but not for passwords. Don't use the same password for multiple websites or accounts. If someone figures it out, they'll have access to all the other places you've used that password. Finally, cyber attacks can be more than someone having nothing better to do. It can be a crime, holding you or anyone else's information hostage, or worse. Report any unusual online activity to the proper authorities.
And that's your Safety Tip Tuesday. Have a great week.
Joining me now is the LCSO Captain Bobby Green with our Vice and Narcotics Unit. Captain Green, Florida Attorney General just gave this big warning out about fentanyl and what's taking place in our state. Can you talk about what's happening here in Leon County with fentanyl?
Well, as you know, Sheriff, we are very aggressive on fentanyl and fentanyl use and abuse and sale of fentanyl. So it has been a problem in the area surrounding counties, as you mentioned earlier about the suicides, the overdose. So we're aggressive. We're aggressive when we find information, we get intel or tips about people that's distributing and selling fentanyl. We like to get right on it in a hurry. With this situation, is no different than, I heard you speak earlier that it's a profit maker. So any illegal drug like cocaine or anything else, it's a cutting agent to make the product more.
So what is this new cutting agent they're utilizing?
Xylylene, and I don't know, someone came up with it. I know I'm a part of HIDE, of course, and I talked to some other commanders across the state, and it's basically the veterinarians use it to kind of subdue large animals like horses. It popped up probably in the last year in like Ocala, but it's starting to, I guess, spread around the state. So people that's selling fentanyl, that they're cutting it with this agent to make more product, to make more money. So, but as you see in the detrimental part about it, it's causing deaths across the state, and now it's aware of, everyone is aware of it. The problem about it is if you're in possession of it, you wouldn't know. You would have to send it to a lab to find out what chemicals are a part of this, and that takes time.
Now, what's the street name for it?
They call it trank. I guess it's xylylene. The trank is because it's a tranquilizer. People on the street give like little curt names for
Right.
street stuff to give it a slang, so they call it trank. And that's pretty much what it does. It's a tranquilizer for large animals.
Well, Captain Green, talk to our audience about what are we doing here locally to try to combat this new drug addition to trank. What are we doing to combat it?
We're aggressively investigating these cases. Anytime we get intel, the cliche has never stopped. It doesn't get old. You see something, hear something, say something. I advise people in the community, you don't buy medication from the drugstore, Walmart or Walgreens or CVS. You don't know what's in it. It's like buying anything off the street that's produced by someone else. You buy a Coca-Cola from someone else, you don't know what's in it. So, the biggest thing, and I hate to say it, but it's like, don't do drugs. That's the biggest thing you can say, and be aware these designer drugs they're coming up with now are dangerous. And fentanyl, it's like you're gonna mix Clorox with another ammonia. It's like double potent. So it's causing problems across the state.
Yeah, Bobby, you and your team are doing a great job. Talk to our viewers about our HIDA initiative and how that's helping in our fight against fentanyl. People
sometimes get confused. HIDA is a program. It's pretty much something that's an umbrella that we work up under. Here in Tallahassee, we're known as a cadre. We are the capital area regional drug response team. So we work in this area, we work around Leon County, so we're aggressively targeting high-level drug traffickers, and that's where we got the initiative from, and so we aggressively go after these people. So we try to stay, ahead of the curve. Information we share all across the state, like this information was it was brought up maybe about 3 or 4 months ago, but now it's on the forefront where Attorney General Ashley Moody has made it an important part to make everyone's aware of in the community.
Now, we call that HIDA, but it stands for High Intensity Drug
Trafficking Area, and that's what this area is. And people sometimes think it's the name of like a agency or something, but it's just an initiative. It's a program that they started years ago to help combat the drug trafficking.
Bob, we got about 1 minute left. What kind of results are we getting? What kind of impact are you guys making in our HIDA?
Well, I will say that we're making a big impact. We have some real large cases that we're working on. We're currently working on now. And in the future, hopefully we'll be able to share some of this with you. But the sensitivity of what we do, sometimes it can't be discussed until the end. But we're aggressively working. We take our tips seriously. We try to, we hear especially about fentanyl. We know the dangers of it, so we like to get it off the streets as quick as we can. We try to make purchases of it and try to make cases and get this drug off the street so it doesn't cause any more harm.
Bobby, I want you to know, and the whole team, that I think you guys are doing a tremendously great job, and I certainly appreciate it, and I think our viewers appreciate it as well. Up next, help for those dealing with addiction and how you can get these Narcan kits for free. Stay tuned. We're back with Jennifer Trevisaw, with Disc Village. Jennifer, for those who may not be familiar with Disc Village, tell us what your services are like at Disc Village.
We have been providing services here in the community for over 50 years. We provide prevention, treatment, and recovery services for adults and youth. And it's our mission to just continue to help the community and fighting against addiction and helping people maintain recovery.
Now, Jennifer, you heard this discussion we've been having here this morning about this fentanyl drug and this new form they've got that's out there that's devastating communities across our nation. And has Disc Village been engaged in to help us with these drugs?
I've been working here at DISC for 17 years, and within the last year and a half, we've had the most overdoses that I've ever experienced throughout my time here.
Wow.
So one of the initiatives we have going on is we're putting Narcan stands out in the community. So they're red boxes that are out in the community for a free Narcan. And for those who don't know about Narcan, I know you guys are well aware because you guys carry them, but they're a life-saving medication that can help reverse the overdose.
What can you tell our viewers about Narcan? How does it work and that sort of thing? If they go and buy it, and you guys provide it for them for free, how does it work?
It's very easy to use, similar to another type of nasal spray that can be used for allergies. You just peel the back of the Narcan, you place it into the nose, and then you push it. And what that will do is save somebody's life. The Narcan that we have, because there's a couple of different types of naloxone, but it's 4 milligrams, and so if somebody's experiencing a fentanyl overdose, then the Narcan comes with 2 kits. So we usually recommend for folks to grab a few of the boxes, but it's very easy to use, and what's most important too is that if it's not harmful to somebody, so if you're experiencing or somebody's experiencing an overdose, or I anticipate that's what it is, and I use it, and it's not going to harm that individual.
Now, is it effective on this new fentanyl and this tranq drug that's out there?
It's not as effective. There's an 8 milligrams version of the same medication that we have a small amount of. It's called Caloxidol, and that's higher milligrams, so that helps with it. The fact is that just grains of sand, that's how much fentanyl it takes for somebody to overdose.
Oh,
and
wow.
A lot of individuals who are experiencing these overdoses, you know, most importantly, it's not an intentional thing. They don't know what they're getting, and so they're taking something that they think might be something else and end up in a critical situation and potentially fatally.
You know, Jennifer, I was talking with some of my staff earlier about this, and they indicated to me that this drug, this new mix of drug with fentanyl, actually is a skin eater. It eats away at flesh. Have you been seeing any of that here in Tallahassee County?
Luckily, we haven't experienced anything with that specific drug, and I hope that we don't, hopefully with all the efforts that you guys have going on. But the most important thing is, you know, we would rather people have Narcan and not need it than need it and not have it. And so that's why with the initiative through Department of Children and Families, we're able to supply the community with unlimited amounts of Narcan.
What's your advice for somebody out there right now who may have an addiction problem and needs assistance? What kind of message can you give them about hope with these drugs, not only fentanyl, but other drugs?
Our services that we provide are affordable, and in fact, there's no, you know, we're on a sliding scale fee, so they can walk into any of our facilities. They can go to our website and look up our locations, because not only are we in Leon County, but we're in outlying counties as well too. And we're just here to help anybody and in any situation that they're in.
How can they contact you guys?
Going to our website or going to our location, which is at 1000 West Tharp Street on the corner of Tharp and Old Bainbridge, and we can help them immediately.
Jennifer, thank you so much. Coming up next in our Deputy on Duty, an LCSO deputy who not only embraces the history of Leon County Sheriff's Office, but is a part of it as well. Stay tuned.
On this episode of Deputy on Duty, we meet background investigator David Pate, who has served in so many capacities at the Leon County Sheriff's Office. One time around wasn't enough.
This is actually my second trip with the Leon County Sheriff's Office. I started here originally in 1987 as a reserve deputy, and I worked here until 2002. I was a uniformed patrol deputy. I was a school resource officer at both middle and high schools. I was a detective in several different units.
Pate's career also included time at the Florida Department of Law Enforcement, and in 2004, he ended his full-time career with the Florida Fish and Wildlife Commission.
Probably my most favorite assignment was I was one of the academy captains delivering in-service and advanced training to almost 1,000 officers statewide. Sergeant Collins?
Yes, sir.
Pate returned to LCSO for both professional and personal reasons.
Then Sheriff Campbell was the person who actually walked me out the door and said, "You've done a good job here. This is your home, and you can come home anytime you want. And if I'm going to come back and do something work-wise in this arena, I want it to be something where I feel I'm doing something worthwhile." It is kind of interesting because there are still some people here that I worked with, and we tend to have a lot of, "Hey, do you remember when?" conversations.
One of those people he worked with was Assistant Sheriff Steve Harrelson. In 2001, both were detectives working at the agency.
We had a case that occurred in 1981. A visitor from New Zealand was touring Florida, and this lady was the victim of a very violent sexual battery and attempted murder.
Both Pate and Harrelson were in high school at the time that assault occurred. 20 years later, advances in technology provided the investigative resources to crack open the case.
This was also during the time that the Florida Department of Law Enforcement began their DNA database. Well, we had DNA evidence on this particular case, and we got a hit.
For Pate, nothing was more rewarding than informing the victim years later that justice prevailed.
Probably the most humbling and interesting day was working with Interpol to work with authorities in New Zealand to find the victim, because that's where she lived. I did get the privilege of getting to speak with her and tell her we found the person and he's been arrested. Very humbling, very humbling. And that was a good day. That was a good day.
In his current role with LCSO, Pate is one of 3 part-time deputies.
I'm assigned as a background investigator, and we do pre-employment background investigations of all employees who want to come to work at the Sheriff's Office. Civilian, correctional officers, correctional techs, deputy sheriffs, any position that the agency hires for.
Good morning. This is Deputy Pate with the Leon County Sheriff's Office.
It's a lot of telephone calls, interviews, and a lot of interpersonal conversations with employers, associates, people that know the applicant, and the applicant themselves.
Pate points out that he gathers all the information but makes no recommendations as to hiring candidates.
All we do is we're finders of fact. We find the information, we report it, and we reconcile any discrepancies or derogatory information that we find. And then the command staff, all the way up to, and this is important, all the way up to the sheriff, actually read and sign off on our reports.
And not having the final say means taking his job all the more seriously.
There's been a lot of focus in the last few years on law enforcement backgrounds and hiring, and we've got to make sure that we're getting the right people in there, because we get the wrong applicant doing a critical job for this agency.
Pate's affinity for digging into the past doesn't stop with potential hires. He's also a contributor to LCSO's museum.
When I was here, I was part of the Criminal Intelligence Unit, and that particular patch is my design. It's a novelty patch. It never was officially worn on anything uniform-wise, but we had that logo and utilized it. There was a nurse that worked in the detention facility and used her own funds and had these patches made up where it says Leon County Sheriff's Department and a medical tab. There are only 4 sets of those that I know about. You know, it's just those one-off things that get lost to history if we don't keep telling the story about them.
Whether or not the candidates that cross Pate's desk will have the same highlighted career experiences he has had, no one can say, but he does have advice for those who wish to work for LCSO.
People who are consistent in their work and they've got a goal and it's something that they want to do, they may not be able to tell you why, but they know that they want to do it because they want these outcomes. And people who are focused on goals and are focused on seeing results from their actions, those are the best employees, I think.
It's not often when someone in law enforcement embraces the milestones of others while having made his own. What our deputy on duty desires most, however, is that history will one day speak kindly of him and all his years of service.
I know there's people out there that I've had an impact on their life, both in a positive and sometimes in a negative way that ends up turning into a positive for them. It's rather unnerving when someone walks up to you at a dinner table in a restaurant and goes, I don't know if you remember me, but you arrested me and I wanted to thank you for the way that you treated me. Or, I needed that to happen in my life. Or even, I'm sorry that I put you through that. I would hope I would be remembered as fair and people would say he was a good cop.
To learn more about how you can serve the community with the Leon County Sheriff's Office, visit our website, leoncountyso.com. I'm Angela Green for Leon County Today.
Welcome back, Sheriff. Another great Deputy on Duty segment. Deputy Pate was with us for so many years, retired, and thought, I really like that gig.
And you know what? We are really fortunate to get David back. The fact that he's working, doing backgrounds for us, looking at cold cases, and just a phenomenal investigator when he was there. And to get as lucky to get him back and now to get him engaged, one of the things we lack, quite honestly, is the depth in terms of looking at cold cases. We have lots of cold cases out there, but we don't have all the staff to get engaged and look at those cases. And when David came back, that was a godsend for us. Not only that, but he's also working in personnel and doing background checks. And one of the things you need when you're doing background checks is somebody who has law enforcement experience and can kind of see through the games that some people play trying to get into law enforcement. So again, we've been very fortunate to have him back, and lucky too, because he knows the Leon County Sheriff's Office from top to bottom, and he's just making us a better team, and I sure appreciate it, and I thank him for coming back to his family.
Absolutely. And then, Sheriff, we're really trying to get ahead of this new fentanyl that's hitting the streets. The Attorney General says it's been seen across Florida. We're trying to message to our community, stay away from this stuff.
I can't impress upon our citizens out there, when you're out in the clubs and places like that, don't take anything somebody gives you. Make sure you guard your drinks while you're out there, because they've got some really deadly things in our community right now, and that fentanyl is one of those most deadly ones.
Yeah, and our community can help us. See something, say something.
See something, say something. We can't emphasize that enough. We've been saying that little phrase for the last 20, 30 years, but it's still true. If you see something out there, let us know, and then we can do something about it.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Sheriff.
Thank you.
All right, and thank you all for joining us. We'll see you next week.